Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Screen Time Continuum. I am Nick, and I'm joined as always by Keelan. How you doing, man?
I'm really good in yourself. Blessed, even.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. I'm very, very happy to hear that. I am also blessed, and I thank you for asking. We hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday evening. Keelan, how's your week been so far?
This week's actually been pretty good. Can't really remember how last week was. Um, so I'll say that's a good thing. I'm not living in the past.
Right. Yeah. I think when we spoke last time, it was either one of the peaks or one of the valleys. I think that's what you said.
I
Um,
believe it was a valley or somewhere near the
yeah.
the valley depths.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we all have it, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, we're getting closer to the holidays. Obviously, that's going to, add to a little bit of craziness, especially having to deal with, distancing and sending packages maybe instead of seeing people and all that stuff. So, I hope everybody is handling that okay. And we're very excited to be with you this evening. We have our third movie in the time continuum, and that would be the 2003 smash hit Anger Management, starring Adam Sandler and Jack Nicholson. Keelan, did you have anything you wanted to say up on the top end before we get into the movie?
On the top end, I enjoyed this movie back when I was younger.
Mm,
Um, Watching it as an adult again, and I can't remember the last time I've seen it. It's easily been over a decade.
right.
Um, but watching it again, I realized there were some moments from this movie that became jokes in my household.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, and
Oh.
also I didn't realize how big of a fan I was of Adam Sandler during this era. Not
Ah.
so much the bulletproof era as
Mm.
we covered recently, but this era, Adam Sandler working with Jack Nicholson, and I guess you could say the overall slapstick era of Adam Sandler, the successful
Mm.
slapstick era.
Right, right. Well, yeah, and I should mention that since our previous episode was Bulletproof featuring Adam Sandler and Damon Wayans, we chose Adam Sandler as the wormhole for this episode, and it landed us here at Anger Management. I had actually not seen this movie before, and it's interesting. I'm starting to realize there's a lot of movies I haven't seen. So this was very fresh for me, and I didn't actually I didn't really know what to expect. We'll get into the details of the whole movie and obviously our verdict at the end. But just on the top end, I wanted to say that this movie is officially called Gaslighting the Movie. And that's all I'm going to say about it right now. But you guys will understand if you haven't seen it before. Curl up, get some popcorn. Maybe have a nice drinksy or sit with your favorite person, and we will recant the tale for you so that you don't have to watch it. That is one of the perks you get when you listen to us. We take our time to go through all of the details of the movies and comment on all of them, and we really hope you enjoy this episode. So without much further ado, I wanted to get into the credentials for this movie. Anger Management is in 2003. It was directed by Peter Segal and written by David Dorfman. It stars Jack Nicholson, Adam Sandler, and Marissa Tomei. And the synopsis is Dave Busnick is a businessman who is wrongly sentenced to an anger management program where he meets an aggressive instructor. Now, I guess we can just jump right into it, Keelan. Do you want to take us away in the intro of this movie?
I'd love to. Let's open before we open. I
Yeah.
think that synopsis is nice.
Mm.
That's all I'm going to say. It is very, very considerate of all things considered.
Yes.
But that's not on you. That's on
That
the
was IMDb.
critics. Right,
Yeah.
right. That's on them. That's not on us.
Right, right.
And whomever wrote this, like all the mini hands, man, I hope they all of. I really should do a little more homework on them. I hope all of their careers went to do some great things because they did their jobs.
Mm.
But I'll get into that later. in the movie, we open in Brooklyn, 1978, and I think it really jumps into the heart of everything that matters and everything that will happen later and or not happen, so to speak.
Right.
Um, and so, we jump right into the characters as kids, or certain characters as kids. There are certain characters that I actually expected to come back, like Sarah. She's comes up in mention, but I realize, being older now, it's like, hey, wait, a lot of things happen because of this moment, or because of Sarah, so to speak, right? Or a lot of people are remembered or are friends because of this moment, but she is nowhere to be found. Like there's even no mention of where she is at this point in life.
Right. Yeah.
That was a little interesting to me.
Well, and I think that kind of points at a little bit of and I'll just say this right up front. There is a little bit of, there's a little bit of plot holage, or maybe just kind of rushed plot, because it seems as though there's a lot of information that they wanted you to have before getting into the movie, and then, we'll get into it. But yes, we're back in 1978, and the main character's name is Dave, right?
Correct. Dave Busniak?
Busnick, yeah.
Busnick. It was weird. Like, even through the movie, I wrote it down and I scribbled it out a few times. I was like, wait, which one was it?
Yeah.
But so, it opens with him in this scene with a friend of his, blah, blah. It's not really, in my opinion, the whole scene's really not that important. They could have literally just told this story. It didn't even have to be visual. It could have been like a moment. He was at the bar telling his boys about this terrible moment, or his girl about this terrible moment that happened in his life.
Yeah.
And then so we fast forward 25 years later, and
but we got to tell what the terrible moment is.
Okay. Fair enough. Like how I tried, right? Fair enough. So the terrible moment basically is exactly, he's talking to Sarah, and she's like, oh, I want everyone to see your first kiss was with me right here in the middle of the street. And he's like, what? And now, of course, everyone's going to think, because of it being an Adam Sandler movie, this is going to be a joke. Crazy part is when you realize the joke's not because of her. Like, she really wanted to kiss him, but the bully happens to see the situation and pants him right in front of her. Right. And this is the part I didn't care for. I don't understand why there's always this reference to, I don't care if it's large or small, there's always a penis reference.
Always a penis reference. So there's this block party sort of thing going on, and Dave is talking to Sarah, his crush, obviously, and they're having like a little moment, and she tries to get him to kiss her, and then as soon as he's about to kiss her, Dave gets pantsed by the neighborhood bully. And all of the adults surrounding him are making fun of him and commenting about his penis. And so I would assume that's quite a traumatic experience for a child to have to go through. So yes, then we do the 25-year jump. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Then we do the 25. And for some people are going to feel like me, like, you could have skipped that part. And I tried, guys. I was on your side here.
But they see, I only bring it up because it's really the only thing that is the impetus for this entire movie. And like, so if we don't mention it, then there really isn't going to be like, because the ending is really because of this situation.
You're absolutely right. And you know what? I appreciate that. I'm glad you called me on that. Because there's even a couple of references to it a little later that I caught as well.
For sure.
So we jump forward 25 years to this adult male pushover. And it's disgusting. I mean, it's not even a little disgusting. It's disgusting to watch. And it's meant to be disgusting to watch. It's cringy. He's a pushover. He's shy. He's awkward. He's passive. And you move from him leaving his girl, and you find out he has this super awkward aversion to kissing in public or doing anything that shows that he has affection for the person that he's in love with.
Right.
I don't get it. But you know what? No, let me not say that. I understand when you're like 12 and 14 and 15. I don't understand at 32. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. And so, he's Yeah. So we cut to basically 25 years, and they're in an airport. Dave and his girlfriend, Linda, played by Marissa Tomei, and she's seeing him off for a business trip. And obviously, she wants a kiss before he leaves, and he doesn't want to do that because he's awkward. And he sees somebody watching him, and he gets very uncomfortable about that.
A person who he can't even make. I think that was the part that really got me. That was I think, okay, so let's say that. And that's what I mean when I say, and maybe it's not just the writers, the screenplay person as well. They did an excellent job of depicting the feelings they were trying to get across. Like, he couldn't even make the person's face out, but he knew someone was watching. So that person could have been knocked out asleep.
Right. Yeah,
you
of
know?
course.
But for him, it was just like, oh wait, are there eyes on me? And I like that they were able to get some of those things across. And I feel like as we get through the movie, that becomes a little hard to deal with, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So as you're saying, we're in the airport, and he and his lady have the moment, and then they break at the gate. So I'm not sure if you want to take this or I could take this, but this is
yeah. Well, see, and this is my whole thing is I kind of kept thinking about this in the entire movie while I was watching. I was like, this is like a fever dream. Like, nothing makes sense. Like, everything that's happening to this character is like so over the top, and like not, and like, and nobody acknowledges how ridiculous it is. So he gets on the plane. And he's looking for a seat, and of course somebody is sitting in his seat, and it's some douchey guy with a leather jacket. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, people don't do that anymore. Like, you're not allowed to take somebody's seat on a plane. Like, you'll be removed. But since like you said before, he's a pushover, so he doesn't assert himself. And basically he has to go take another seat, and this seat happens to be right next to Jack Nicholson, who looks as creepy as ever. Honestly, he is a very unsettling looking man. Yeah, he's very good. He's very good at that. And so all during this sort of plane ride, Jack Nicholson's like watching a movie, and he's being very loud, and he's asking very uncomfortable questions very loudly. And it's like everything that's happening to Adam Sandler's character Dave is like this just button pushing event that's supposed to push him over the edge, but he never goes over the edge. And so he's on the plane, and he's trying to get headphones to watch the movie with Jack Nicholson, because Jack Nicholson's bugging him about watching the movie with him. He asks the stewardess. Yes.
But wait, before you jump into that. So I think before we even get to the movie and the stewardess, right? The build up behind everything else. This is okay. So for me, at least, this is honestly when I started analyzing the movie, right? Pretty much from jump. The reason I started analyzing it was exactly what we both noticed. It's like, wait, this isn't realistic. Like, what is all of this flurry of nonsense that's coming his way just instantaneously, right?
Right.
So I think to myself, and this is as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, okay, and not thinking that there is anything in control of this, but thinking that what is in control of this is you've been holding this, whatever it is, for a moment, and you're just a dude who's out here thinking, oh, nothing's wrong with me. And life is just kind of like, hey, buddy, I got a nice little bowl of something for you. And so what I see is you have, again, like you saw, you have the guy who he comes into contact with. Then you have this couple who that guy was dodging already, right? So that's crazy to me, because you have this guy who's dodging being between this couple. Oh, you can just take my seat, right? And the pushover, as we both noticed. And you go through that, keep note of the couple, but that's much later. Move on. Now you come into contact with this nut job or this very annoying passenger. What are the chances? Like, we're both asking that. What are who? I personally, this is me. If he could take my seat, I'm asking, hey, can I like sit way in the back or something? I'm already in coach.
Yeah.
What's going to be the difference between sitting at the tail, sitting in the, for me? And I'm only thinking that because there's more space. So I didn't understand that. So when we get to the stewardess, as you were saying,
Oh yes. So we get to the stewardess, and then he's asking for a pair of headphones, right? Because Jack Nicholson is bothering him about watching the movie, and Adam Sandler finally just gives in, is like, "All right, let me get the headphones from this flight attendant." The flight attendant, oddly enough, is Steve Carell's wife, which is interesting. She was part of The Office as well.
I didn't know that was his wife.
Yeah, that's his wife. Way back in the day, I guess. But yeah, so he's trying to get the headphones from the flight attendant. The flight attendant's ignoring him, obviously. After a few minutes, the flight attendant's passed by, like, she's about to walk right by him, and he kind of lightly touches her arm, and she flips out and says, "How dare you assault me?" Blah 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 blah, and Dave is being very calm and very soft spoken, which he has been this entire time. Then you get an air marshal that shows up and starts, like, asking if there's an issue, and asking Dave to get out of his seat and go to the back, and like, he's freaking out, and I mean, he's not necessarily freaking out, but he's like not understanding why these people are making such a big deal out of everything. And I have to say, I was in the same boat as
I'm on his
him.
page. Yeah, I was on his team, and that's what I mean when I say you had all these things coming down, and I'm just looking like, okay, wait, this is if I'm him, if I must put myself in his shoes. Okay, I'm dealing with this dude. He's avoiding these people. Now I'm with this wacko over here.
Right.
Now you're being, oh man, come on, man. You're supposed to be the sanest person on this. All right.
Yeah. Yeah,
right.
of course.
What am I doing? And that's what I mean when I was like, before we got there, it's like, no, we have to put the distress behind it all. Like, there is a lot of, like, I could strangle every last one of you guys, but I'm not even that kind of a person.
Right. Well, yeah, the movie definitely does a good job about making you frustrated, because it does the same thing that it's doing with the character, with the audience, which is put them in a situation that makes no sense and then to not tell them why it's happening.
Throwing another log on the bonfire.
Right, exactly. And so basically, what he gets in trouble because he caused this altercation on the plane, and the plane had to turn around, so he has to go to court because the flight attendant is basically claiming that her arm was, like, broken. She comes in a sling even though he touched her, like, very lightly. And he gets assigned to 20 hours of anger management, right?
Now, I want to also add, I thought it was very interesting that he didn't have a public defendant. This is his personal lawyer, and this lawyer was simply, it's like he just thought he had it in the bag already, right?
Yeah,
like, it was your job.
Yeah, it was the bad lawyer shtick. It's like, it was one of his.
The whole classic. But at the same, for me, I also realized that this may be the movie that set the tone for they are not stewardess, they are flight attendants.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's a lot of those little, like, bits, that I just kind of glossed over, because honestly, there's not very much interesting stuff going on in this movie. Like,
no. You have to be in your emotions. This is a be in your emotions type of movie.
Right. So Dave gets sentenced to 20 hours of anger management, and he goes to the anger management meeting area. And wouldn't you know it, it's Jack Nicholson who plays Dr. Rydell, and he is an anger management specialist.
Are you just going to pass over Bobby Knight like that?
What happened? What?
You don't know who Bobby Knight is?
Well, what part are you speaking about?
Oh, as he walks into the class before he even sees Buddy, the very first guy he meets is Bobby Knight, and Bobby Knight thinks he's in sex therapy.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, I honestly, as I said, these moments that do pass by, like, okay. I really couldn't hold on to them, because I was trying to, I don't know, I think I was waiting for something else to happen. So yeah.
Bobby Knight is a notable basketball legend is all.
Yeah. Yeah, so I missed his cameo then. And maybe it was because I wasn't paying attention, but
Right.
uh
Coach, for the record, he was a coach. He wasn't a player. I just want to make
gotcha.
that.
So Dave has to go into this anger management thing, and he sees Jack Nicholson's character, Dr. Rydell, and he's like, "Oh, that's the guy that sat next to me, man. I could probably, talk him into just signing off because he saw this whole thing and I didn't do anything, right?" Well, of course, that would be the logical thing because, Dave really didn't hurt anybody and he didn't actually raise his voice. And it was a very strange situation. But of course, Dr. Rydell doesn't want Dave to just get signed off on. He wants him to sit in on a class or on a session, I should say. And this is probably one of the more shining moments in this movie, for me at least, is the ancillary characters, the ones that are in the session with him.
Yes.
I actually kind of enjoyed all of them.
Yes.
You get a good cameo from Luis Guzman
Yes.
and John Turturro. And
probably the best from John Turturro.
Yeah, he does a really great job. I actually wrote that down in my notes. I'm surprised. I'm not really surprised because he's been in a lot of other stuff that I really like, but he is a very good actor. Like he knows how to get kind of like lost in a role, which is interesting. He plays this tough guy, New Yorker that's got an anger management issue, and all of them have anger management issues, obviously. But this is where I kind of like got into this. Like, this has to be like gaslighting, like to the max, because everything out of Rydell's mouth is like some gaslighty line towards Dave, and then he denies ever saying it in that way, and he's just trying to poke him. He got very frustrating, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure. Now, here's my question for you. Mm-hmm. If you were Dave, who are you?
Oh my gosh, that moment was so ridiculous, dude. Yeah, and it's funny because I do appreciate that little moment too, because it is one of those like motivational speaker sort of traps where they
throw that to the wolves. I hate being probed.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, you're absolutely right. It is one of those tactics we've all heard, but I hate being probed, and only because I feel like if you want an honest answer from someone, or if you want an honest discussion with someone, ask them the question you really want to know. Are you a murderer? Have you ever thought of murder?
Right. Yeah.
Do you think you're capable of murder?
I can't stand games and all that stuff. It really bothers me. Yeah. Right. If you need to ask me something, just be straight about it. And like that's good enough for me.
Who are you?
But yeah, Dr. Rydell.
Rip my TV off my wall, man.
Yeah. Dr. Rydell does this sort of like snake oil salesman thing where he asks Dave, like, who are you? And Dave's like, well, I work at blah, blah, blah. And he cuts him off. And he's like, I'm not asking you what your job is. I'm asking you who you are. And then Dave's like, okay, well, I like to do this. And he's like, I'm not asking you about your hobbies. I'm asking about who you are. And Dave's like, all right, well, I'm this. And they're like, I'm not asking you about your personality. I'm asking you about who you are. I'm like, oh my God, dude. It's just so like all of it's so unreasonable. And I'm like, I would have snapped at that moment.
Yeah, he was trying to pull the Jekyll out of him.
Yeah, which is kind of like interesting, but and that's kind of one of my points too, is like, we'll find out later that, there's more to Jack Nicholson's character, but I really would have liked to have that indication at any point in the movie, except for the end, because it's like, I had no clue whether he's like, just some crazy guy or whether he's actually good at his job,
Well, I think that's the real question. Like, think about the group. Okay. Right. Like the sayings out of the group, what was, anger is the one thing you can't let go of by losing it.
Right.
And it's like,
right.
How extreme is everybody? Everybody's on Goose Fraba. And I will talk about other people on Goose Fraba later. Goose Fraba is a saying for those who have not seen the movie and just want to get the information by being here with us. It's a saying that they say kind of like in Bad Boys, Woo Sa, Goose Fraba, and this about the same. Whoa. Here, I'm not going to do it. So what I didn't like all the deflecting, the toxicity, like they were spreading the toxicity and encouraging the pressure cooker situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like at the end of all of that, now you want to set me up with one of them as an anger accountability buddy.
Oh yeah, and so obviously, yeah, so John Turturro's character Chuck is like this crazy loose cannon that gets into confrontation in the session with Dave. Dave talks to Rydell after the session, and he's like, "Okay, well that was a little bit crazy. So can you sign off on my paperwork?" Rydell says, "No, no, no. You're gonna actually need to double your hours because you're the type of angry that's not explosive. You're implosive."
Right.
You're the type of angry that'll just wait and wait and wait until you shoot somebody, like, and I was like, I guess that could be correct. It could be, I mean, like that there are definitely those types of people for sure, but I just didn't get any indication from Adam Sandler's character that that's the person who he was,
Right.
and yeah, so I kind of had a like, as I said, they didn't do a very good job about setting up Adam Sandler's issues, except for that flashback and then him at the airport with his girlfriend. And even then, yes, he was kind of really like passive and like annoying, but there wasn't any real depth to it. I just thought that, okay, well, maybe that's just kind of like a part of the character.
Right. I was thinking it was kind of it was their way of trying to relate to the everyday person.
Yeah.
Like anybody could be this person on a different week or this month of the year kind of a deal.
Like,
right. By not having this super terrible history of having toxic things happen to him and or doing toxic things to other people. But being in these moments and in this situation where his mental stability at the end of the day, we're getting into that, was being tested at the end of the day. Like that's really what I think was happening here.
Yeah. So he gets assigned his what is it, his anger sponsor or whatever.
Yeah, let's call it that.
Yeah.
And anger Billa buddy is what I call it.
Right. Then we get into introduced, obviously there's a lot of smash cut sort of like scenes like we saw in Bulletproof almost, where it jumps from one thing to another and it's kind of like there's no seamlessness, kind of like a lot of things got cut out. But we cut to Linda at a bar with Andrew, her best friend or whatever, who is played by one of Adam Sandler's friends. You've seen the guy in all of Adam Sandler's movies. He played the quarterback. He played one of the quarterbacks in Waterboy, I think.
Right. He was in Grandma's Boy as well. I can't remember his
name. Yeah. Neither can I. But he's definitely, you would recognize his face. And he plays this best friend character to Linda that obviously is a threat to Adam Sandler because he's very rich and apparently has a giant member on him for some reason. Doesn't need to be. Yeah.
No. It's not that it exists or that even it came up. It's the way that Dave happened to have to use the restroom. And why did you look down again?
Yeah. So they're at the urinal and they have this, situation where they stand right next to each other, even though I think there was enough space for them to space that out. But they stand right next to each other and Dave starts rubbernecking and looking over to Andrew for no reason, because no men do that.
Makes no sense at all.
Unless you're trying to hit on the guy next to you, maybe, right? Like, but yes, men of hetero persuasion don't look at each other in the urinal.
But it gets worse. He exits the urinal to do what next? Oh, well, no, this is after they leave. So he and his lady leave.
Right. Yes. They leave and they go back home, and then he starts talking about it to his ex or his lady.
His lady, yeah. His
lady. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know why he needed to have a conversation about.
Yeah, this is when I start getting an idea of what could be the actual issue, like the underlying issue with Dave.
Mm.
And there's going to be a moment where I'm able to highlight it a little bit more, but it has something to do with how he feels about himself.
So you think it has penis envy?
Somewhat, yeah, but not
Yeah.
so much. Just I don't think it's centered around his penis. I think it's just centered around his lack of like just low self-esteem.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and they all the adults were making fun of him when he got pantsed as a kid, so I
Right?
guess that makes sense. But
It's trauma. It's trauma. Oh, we're figuring it out. It's trauma.
yeah, yeah. So Dave and Linda get interrupted by Chuck coming over to Dave's house.
Chuck, no.
Huh?
No, that sorry. Just I had to wait till you brought it up, but to say Chuck, no.
Chuck, no. Yeah.
Chuck, no.
He's having a crisis and he needs his anger buddy or whatever. So he convinces Dave to go to a bar with him and hang out. And they have a drink, and then Chuck gets into a bar fight with a biker and a blind guy.
Chuck, no.
Yeah. And Dave is just trying to he's trying to mediate the situation, and the blind guy starts wailing on him with a
Dave
with
is
a
trying
cane.
to Chuck, no.
Yeah, he's trying to get Chuck to cool off, but the blind guy keeps hitting Dave with his cane. Dave tries to grab the cane out of the blind guy's hands and wrests it away, only to hit a waitress in the face.
And break her nose.
And then we cut to Dave back in court.
We are.
With the broken-nosed waitress, and he's about to be sentenced to 1 year in jail, right?
Yes. Now he is right on the brink of being sentenced to 1 year in jail.
I will say that the tennis ball gag was pretty funny. The lawyer doing if he was blind, then he throws a tennis ball right at the dude's face, just hits him.
That was hilarious.
That.
There were a few moments that did make me literally laugh out loud. Like
that
was a good knee slappers, as we call them, right?
Right.
But so yeah, again, back to court, back with the terrible lawyer, but now in walks Savior Buddy.
Yes.
And this is when, for me at least, I'm like, if I'm Dave, even if you were just so in your own world that everything else happened, this dude just all of a sudden walks into the courtroom like Jesus Christ himself. Excuse me, backtrack. I'm not editing this, but I'm going to just say something different. This guy walks into the room like he's the judge, in fact. Let's say it that way.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's off-putting. And if I'm in Dave's position, I'm standing up and I'm calling, nah, it's not happening. No, don't believe it. I'm walking out. This ain't real. This is a setup.
Well, and and we're going to get into the ending of this movie, and I have so many questions, and but yes, it's a very strange, odd situation. Rydell or Buddy is able to talk to the judge and convince the judge to release Dave into his custody so that he can avoid prison time. Mm-hmm. And so the judge agrees, and and then all of a sudden Rydell decides to move in with him.
No, you can't move in here.
Yeah, exactly. So Dave basically has Rydell move into his house or his apartment with him, and more absurdity ensues, more gaslighting. Rydell likes to sleep naked, and they have to share a bed. And...
Wait.
Yes,
you can't move in here.
Yeah.
These whole like 3 scenes just shouldn't exist. You can't move in here.
I know. It really should. Like, why would you ever let somebody move in with you? That's
Also, I want to say I hate it here because no sarcasm. Like, who are you? You can't move in here.
Right.
There's one bed. You won't be nude. Is this even legal? What kind of therapy is this?
Yeah, it seems like it's breaking some sort of confidentiality agreement.
Sure. But so before we move past, this is one of those. This is actually probably the biggest joke that exist in my family now because of this movie.
Mm.
So as they get through all the insanity that Rydell Buddy is putting Dave through, they get to the bed, and as you were saying, Buddy sleeps naked.
Yeah.
There's only one bed, and he's trying to explain to Dave before he gets naked. He's telling Dave, "Oh, in Europe, it wouldn't be weird for 3 or 4 men to sleep in the same bed."
Yeah.
And then he takes off his underpants and his t-shirt and ensues to tell Dave he likes to sleep in the nude.
Yeah.
And then you see them cupping and cuddling. What? They're 10 seconds late. I don't understand that. I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
They're spooning. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. And then comes the fart.
Right. Yes.
The fart was only funny because I almost missed it because I was drinking water and I turned my head, and mostly because I didn't understand why they were spooning. I was like, they're funny, but if he kisses the back of his ear or something, I might. Yeah, like, come on, Jack. But it was after he passes gas and he goes, "You hear that, frog?"
Yeah.
And my father would walk in. He would be in the other room. Dad, I know you're gonna listen to this at some point. And for all of those who've never met my father, who will hear about and maybe even see my father in the future, he doesn't mind. He has a sense of humor. He gets it. My dad would be in the other room. He would pass gas and he'd walk into the room and poke his head around the corner. "Did you hear that, frog?"
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, Pops.
Of course.
Get out of here. So that for me was one of those moments that it actually put a little light in me. Like, oh, okay, that's where we got that from. I just thought it was funny.
Right. So, yeah. Well, and then so they go to sleep, and Rydell wakes Dave up at 6:30 in the morning to make him breakfast. And once Dave makes him breakfast, he throws the breakfast at the wall.
I'm not cooking for you.
Yeah, because Dave made the wrong kind of eggs or something like that.
Right, and now I'm going to prison.
Yeah. Honestly, I just kept thinking to myself, like, what the hell is going on here? Like,
I'm going to prison. That's what's going on.
Yeah. You might as well do
and not for the case that I'm always. No, I'm going to prison for something totally
new.
Did you just throw my food?
Yeah. It was very bizarre. And then Dave is like, needs to get ready for work, and Rydell is like, well, we're going together, and so he decides that they have to go to work together. Then while on the Brooklyn Bridge, or one of the other bridges in New York, Rydell pulls the keys out of the car while on the bridge, and makes Dave sing a song while people are honking and screaming at him.
Now, in my opinion, well, did you think this was called for?
Honestly, no, of course not. I mean, you're blocking a 2-lane bridge.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought this was highly uncalled for, even though this is probably the most iconic scene from the entire movie.
That's true. It doesn't necessarily need to even be in the movie.
Right. It absolutely does not. And what got me is, and I don't know, again, this is one of those moments in the movie. I feel like there were a couple of moments in this movie, at least for me, where it made me stop and look at myself a little. Like, wait, okay, that's funny, but okay, maybe I should reevaluate that part of the way I look at things, because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, did you just antagonize me for the last 48 hours and now you're blaming me for it? And now I have to sit in the middle of this highway and sing 2 verses of "I Feel Pretty."
Yeah. Which I have to say, both of them singing that together was actually pretty good.
It was
I mean, like, it wasn't exactly like stitch up funny, but it was just funny to see Adam Sandler singing, and he doesn't have a terrible voice, but it is a very strange voice. And then you have Jack Nicholson obviously singing too, which is funny, but
about being pretty.
But it was a totally, superfluous scene. It really didn't add anything to the movie per se.
And he was already late for work. Yeah. So he finally gets to work, and Dave's boss has an awesome office. That is a pretty cool office he's got.
And
I want to design kitty clothes if that's what it gets you.
right, and we find out that Dave's job is to kind of design cat clothing, I guess, which
It's a
is
job. Somebody has it.
apparently it is a job. And so did anything really happen at his job with Rydell except for
Well,
like
Buddy is
small little
introduced to
things?
the boss basically, and the boss is just the boss. He's a jerk.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
well, what does happen at the job? Nothing really important, in my opinion, happens in the first interaction with the boss. But Buddy meets Andrew, and Buddy clearly
right,
doesn't like Andrew right off the bat.
right.
It's weird that I appreciated that without being told anything, without any internet initial introduction.
Yeah,
Buddy was automatically like, "Nah, I don't like this dude." Like he gave him the coldest, iciest side of him, and it was like, wait, maybe he does like Dave a little bit.
yeah. And this is why I feel like it's gaslighting the movie, because it's like he'll do something, Buddy will do something that's completely antagonistic and just like crazy, and like just try to destroy Dave's life.
Like gaze
But
at his woman the way he was gazing at that picture.
man, yeah.
Oh,
And but then he does something solid, like, hate the guy that hangs around his girl.
right.
So yeah, it was pretty confusing. But so we get to the Skid Row part, right?
Right. Well, yeah, and that's right before we get there. We find Dave's talking to his lawyer, who's looked into Buddy's background, finds out Buddy has dozens of lawsuits against him
Yeah,
because of his drastic practice.
right.
And somehow Buddy's already been tipped off about this. How do we know that? Buddy proposes some naked yoga or naked meditation.
Naked meditation.
And Dave's super against that. Like, what do you want to see me naked for? And he's trying to fiddle faddle with the recorder behind his back, which of course Buddy saw. And I figured that was obvious, at least to me, that he had already seen what he was doing. And then they get to the Skid Row scene where what do we call
I don't know. We have to step around. We're gonna have to step around this one pretty gingerly. But
Woody Harrelson's character.
Yes, Woody Harrelson's character. Galaxia, was it that?
Yeah, Gary Galaxia.
Galaxia, thank you. Yeah, Galaxia. So
at the time, Galaxia.
Woody Harrelson plays a woman of the night.
Right.
Is that fair enough?
Oh no. So in the movie, Galaxia makes it very clear that they're a trans prostitute. I thought that was very progressive for 2003.
Oh yeah. I'm not necessarily saying that. I was just trying to make sure that I wasn't.
What I mean is
stepping on any toes.
No, I totally get what you're saying, and that's what I mean is the by Galaxia or Galaxia, excuse me.
Galaxia, yeah.
Galaxia. Well, I'll figure that out later. But Galaxia explaining like, no, I am a transgender prostitute. I thought that to be so spot on, something that I think it would still be acceptable even today in 2020 when we've had to sit at the table and find out, hey, some of these things are offensive. I think back then they were on the right path. I don't think that would be offensive today.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And it was an interesting character that kind of pops up at the end as well, which is cool. I mean,
really cool. Yeah.
If perhaps if the character hadn't popped up, then it might have been another kind of like superfluous scene. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But they have a conversation, and that was basically it. It was just to have a conversation, right? Just to get him angry.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what Buddy expresses is basically by him expressing that he was not for it, and that was, he was about to snap. By him expressing that, he then graduates from level 1 to level 2, and Buddy tells him that was part of the test. So my question at that point was, when did the test start, and when does this test end? That was my first time really thinking that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. And that was the first indication that I'm like, okay, well then there's some sort of metric in which he's actually, the things he is doing as a part of the method you know, instead of just being like a crazy, you know, person, which I mean, you know, like he was definitely being crazy, but apparently there was a method to the madness. So
Somewhat.
let's see. Yeah, I guess. I mean, look, I'm giving a lot of liberty to the words that I use because, you know, there's yeah. We're gonna get into the end soon, and
Oh yeah,
I'm just gonna
it'll
have
make
so many
sense.
issues. Yeah. Um. So then we get to a scene in which Buddy is taking a shower, and Dave answers the phone, and it's Buddy's mother's doctor or something
No, Buddy's
saying
secretary.
Buddy's secretary, thank you. Yeah, Buddy's secretary saying that Buddy's mother is going into surgery, but it's a minor procedure, so everything should be okay. Buddy gets out of the shower. Dave decides that this is going to be his time to try to get Buddy away from him. And so he tells him, "Oh, your mother is going to surgery and it sounds serious." And Buddy starts crying and like, you know, and freaking out because he thinks his mother is dying. And Dave is like, "Oh, I'm actually just kidding. Sorry." And so, you know, Buddy's like, "Oh, I'm going to get you back for that one." But he also said that like Dave was like, "Oh yeah, but she is in surgery. I just was joking about it being serious. It's a minor surgery." So Buddy decides that he needs to go to Boston to go visit his mother and check on, make sure everything is okay.
Mhm.
Dave thinks that this is going to buy him some time, but obviously he's going to have to go with Buddy. So
Right.
they take a trip to Boston.
It's like Buddy is a live ankle bracelet.
Yeah, pretty much. So they go to Boston, right? And this is another kind of part of the movie where I'm like, why did we do this? Uh, so they're in Boston and they decide to go to this bar. And then we have a cameo by Heather Graham. And she is at the bar. And prior to this, Buddy and Dave were kind of talking about his relationship with Linda.
Wait.
Yeah.
Did we really skip the car on top of the parking unit?
Oh yeah, I totally did because I didn't even write that in my notes. I was like, oh,
Oh
that's just another thing.
no, I didn't write it in my notes either, and it was a
Yeah,
thing. But if in my opinion, this is so really quick before
yeah,
we get to the bar. So as we're going to Boston, as we have to head over to Boston, and they have to use Buddy's car. Buddy's car is blocked in by another vehicle. Buddy literally grabs a bat. First, he decides whether he wants a golf club or a bat. Grabs a
yeah.
bat, smashes a guy's window, pops the e-brake, backs into the car. The car rolls back. See, now I have room to back out, and I left my car, so he knows who to call. Blah 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 blah. Car
Right.
falls off a dang roof.
Yes, it does.
And
Yes.
to me, this is when Buddy is starting to be the example rather than the instructor before the drive to Boston.
Right. Yeah, yeah, but it's not very obvious to me that that's what he was trying to do, you know,
No,
like
I don't think he was
it's
trying to push it off the roof at all.
yeah, well no, I mean, but it's not obvious to me that was he was trying to display a bad example, you know what I mean? Like this is where I have an issue because there's a lot of the things that Buddy does, it's like, "Oh yeah, he was just trying to show what the bad example is." But I'm like, I
No,
don't know.
I think the reason he is the psychologist that he is now and is because at one point he was that closed off person, and now that he's outwardly angry with all of these reasons that everybody else has bought into, it works.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
like a motivational speaker, as we were saying a little earlier.
Right, right.
Not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I think this is also an example of how it could be somewhat abused by some people as well.
mm, yeah. So they're at the bar in Boston, and Heather Graham is at the bar, and they're at a booth, and Buddy encourages Dave to go and try to hit on Heather Graham. Dave says, "No, I'm in a relationship. I don't want to do that." And obviously, Buddy plays the "do what I say, you're going to jail" card, which gets played a little bit too much in this movie, if I'm being honest.
Agreed.
So he goes up to Heather Graham and tries to hit on her, and she tells him to go screw himself. He comes back to Buddy, and Buddy's like, Now I want you to do it again, but you need to say you just need to say these exact words. And I'm not really going to repeat the words because it's just it was one of exactly. It was one of those long sigh moments where I'm like, oh geez, like I guess it wasn't extremely vulgar, but it was vulgar enough that if you tried to pick up a woman with that, you're getting a drink in your face for sure.
I don't know a woman who wouldn't be ready to assault you after saying something
Right.
like that.
Yeah, exactly. And there were no. Well, I'm saying it wasn't as vulgar because there wasn't any profanity, but it was
True.
still
True,
it
true.
was still descriptive enough to be offensive.
It's just like, who are you talking to?
Yeah, exactly.
You
But
kiss your mother with that mouth?
yeah, but Buddy says, if you'll say this to her, and she does not, she doesn't accept, or like you can't sit with her and talk with her after this, then I will sign off on all your paperwork and you'll be done. And obviously, that's a very good, deal for Dave because he's like, I'm definitely going to strike out with this girl.
Right.
So he goes up to her and he's forced to say this kind of vulgar line towards her. And much to his chagrin, she totally takes it and she's like, oh, you're kind of cute.
And this
And
is when I think Dave is a big fat dummy.
yeah, yeah, exactly, totally. Yeah, and well, he does kind of be like his initial response is like, "What? Like you can't be serious." And
Right.
so they get to talking, they have a few drinks. Um it gets a little bit later and Dave is like, "Oh man, I need to get back to my friend." Turns around, Buddy's not there anymore.
Boogie on him.
Boogied on him, ditched him. So Heather Graham's character, which I didn't get her name, I think
I
it's Kendra or something like that.
think
But
perhaps.
yeah, but she's like, oh well, my house is pretty close. Do you want to come over and then you can try to track him down from there. He accepts. Some shenanigans ensue, and she tries to hit on on Dave. Dave stays true, doesn't want to break his oath to his girlfriend and doesn't want to cheat on her, obviously, because he's a decent guy. And
Right.
So Heather Graham's character starts getting crazy because she's like, well, why don't you want to sleep with me? Is it because I'm too fat? And obviously Heather Graham is in incredible shape, so it's
Right.
not that she's too fat. But that's kind of
She
like
is a
the gag.
patient.
Yeah, she's a little nutty. So Dave is able to escape that and has to walk in the rain to go find Buddy's house.
But why does it rain immediately though?
Because it's movies, man.
Like
That's why.
immediately, and
Yeah.
ironically, oh, Linda just happened to call when I get to where you are.
Oh yeah. So he gets to
No,
Buddy's house. Oh my gosh, this
but
is where I'm like, are you serious?
right. And so, like, after he gets there and he's telling them, like, oh, Linda called and I told her you were out with another girl. And, oh, buddy, it was, I was just joking. Oh, so Linda didn't call. Oh, no, Linda did call. I just set you up on the date. The date wasn't real, but Linda called and I did tell her that. But wait, what?
Right. So he
So,
finds
I'm
out.
going to prison, right? That's what you're telling me?
Yeah. So he finds out that Heather Graham's character is just somebody that Buddy hired in order to kind of talk with him a little bit and mess with him because he wanted to get his revenge for Dave saying that his mother was dying.
Right.
Right.
And I honestly thought this is when Dave broke.
Yeah, I would think so. So this is so Dave is like, oh, well, then, Linda didn't call. And then Buddy's like, well, no, I did tell her that you were with another woman. That's why it's so funny because you weren't. And then Dave snaps and attacks Buddy. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have another cut to the court. Right.
Well, not immediately. So he doesn't exactly attack him. He goes off on him verbally.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then we get to the car scene or the driving the next morning when they leave. And I don't know. It's like, this is when he's like, oh, wait, no, he didn't. He's not going to break. He still trusts Buddy. Right. Mm-hmm. And Buddy takes him to go see Arnie Shankman.
That's right. Yes. So Dave thinks that they're going back to New York. Buddy, while he's asleep, drives him to go see his fifth grade bully, the guy that pantsed him in front of the entire
Wow.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole
And
Brooklyn.
yeah, all of Brooklyn saw it. And we find out that this bully, Arnie, is now a Buddhist monk and he lives on a monastery. And so they get to the monastery and Buddy brings a gun with him for
Right.
obviously
And Arnie
buddy reason.
Shankman is what is his name right now?
John C. Reilly.
Thank you, John C.
Yeah.
Reilly. Yes.
So John C. Reilly plays the monk bully Arnie Shankman. And Buddy makes Dave confront the bully, which I thought was fine. Like that
Right.
made sense. Like you want to come to terms with all of that situation. But then obviously Buddy is kind of overboard and he starts to goad Dave into having a fight with him. This is when I thought that Buddy is like Tyler Durden in 30 years. Yeah,
like, and that's the whole point. Like he didn't want him to confront him. He wanted to enrage the monk.
Right.
Like
right.
he absolutely wanted to fuel the beast that was Dave and enrage the monk. But he even had to admit, like, oh, I didn't expect that from a monk. When even the monk had to snap at a certain point.
Right. Right.
And that made me wonder, like, so does your teachings work? If this is part of your teaching, does your teaching work? Because the monk snapped before your client.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was very weird. At this moment, I really did think like, oh wait, is Buddy like a figment of Dave's imagination, and like not even a real person? Like this whole thing has just been like this weird like Fight Club thing going on.
I didn't think of that. That'd have been crazy. Oh man, that would have been crazy. But I did start thinking during the whole monk scene with Arnie Shankman. I started thinking like, wait, is Buddy helping Dave? Like, and like from first off, you pull a gun. Oh, I'm sorry, no, you pull a water gun.
Yes, it is. It turns out to be a water gun.
It's a whole gag. And are you guys getting along? Like you're laughing and joking about it now, and
now they're friends and stuff. It was very strange.
Right. It was really weird. But once again, Buddy being Buddy. So now you have this incredible, great day, and he's helping you break down some walls and work through your inner demons. And now you're thinking about proposing to your lady, aren't you, Dave?
Right.
Yes, you are.
Yes. So he finally gets back to New York, and he's with Linda, and they're walking along the Hudson River. And he talks about how like he wanted to wait for a Yankees game, but he's just after the craziness that he's just experienced. He really wants to do this now. And he hesitates I don't know why.
I can't say the word because I'm trying not to be crass, but
okay. Yeah.
He had no heart.
Yes. So he hesitates and basically doesn't ask Linda to marry him like he was going to 2 seconds prior. And that gives Linda enough opportunity to say that she's been thinking as well. And she thinks that they shouldn't see each other anymore.
No, I don't like it. Because she didn't think nothing. See, what I had an issue with here was he had a problem saying something to his woman, but another man had no problem saying something to your woman. And his will got enacted in your house, sir. That's a problem for me.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem for me.
Yeah.
And to be clear to anyone listening, when people, this isn't about, oh, the man this, the man that. No, it's about respect. Like, I don't feel like my word shouldn't take rule in any other man's house unless it is run by that man and then pushed out through that man. I shouldn't be making shot calls to no one else or to whomever is, a part of the decision-making process in that household is what I'm saying. But just because I said something don't mean it should be like, oh, we're going to get that done. And I understand the scene, they had their whole conversation, but hey, you wanted to marry this woman and now y'all going separate ways. Hold on, wait.
Right. So Linda was talking to Buddy, and Buddy had suggested that it might be best for them to have a separation. And so Linda takes this to heart and tells Dave right before he doesn't propose to her. And yes, Dave is very upset, and he doesn't, he's like understandably very upset.
Yeah.
But then Buddy finesses him into agreeing that this isn't a good idea too. I don't even know how he did that. Just kind of like says, "Trust me, you're gonna,
Jedi.
you know, you guys will come back together stronger than ever," or whatever. Um, so Buddy kind of tells Linda, like, "Yeah, you know what? You can go date other people. That's fine, I guess." They have a conversation on the phone, and he's like, "Yeah, I understand." He's not okay with it. He's just pretending he's okay with it
I'm not
because,
okay with it.
yeah, me neither. I think it was, yeah. And as I said, we'll get into it. We're almost to the end, and we'll get into the everything that makes absolutely no sense. Um, so, what happens after that?
Well, so after they split and they discuss on the phone that they should see other people, and she asks him if he's angry, and he's like, "No, I'm not angry." And he launches a calculator and knocks somebody
Knock
out.
somebody out. Yeah.
um, then he gets home, and the anger accountability buddies are in his hallway looking for Buddy.
Right.
Another point where I'm like, "Hey, yo, get out of my
Yeah. Stop
domain."
standing in front of my doorway. Yeah.
And they they tell him, "Oh, well, we heard her, your lady left these keys and we heard her on the phone and she's meeting so and so and da 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 da." Whoa, excuse me, huh? What?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I
Right.
guess I'll be over there. And that's when he calls the two girls. Well, we don't see, there's no scene of him calling, but the next scene is they pop up at the restaurant. He
Yes.
and the two ladies from the lesbian porn star couple.
Right.
From
the anger management.
Anger management.
Yeah. And yes, he convinces them to go on a date with him because now he knows Linda is at this really fancy restaurant and he needs to show up. And so he has these two porn star lesbians go to dinner with him. And yeah, they're pretty good friends. I mean, like that was a nice thing that they did for him.
I thought so as well.
So they sit, they're at the dinner, and Dave wants to have the table right next to where Linda is sitting. They confront each other, and Dave introduces the porn stars to Linda, and then all of a sudden, in comes Buddy.
No, all of a sudden, Dave should have turned in a Rambo or like Frank Mir or somebody.
Right? Yeah. He should have lost it right there, but apparently he doesn't. So Buddy is on a date with Linda, and Dave takes Buddy aside privately, and Buddy convinces him that, like, I'm doing this for your own good. I'm keeping her away from Andrew. By the time the night is over, she's going to be so bored with me that she's going to be crawling back to you. Like I'm going to be a really terrible date, so that way she realizes how great you are and will want to be with you. So after the dinner, Buddy goes back to Dave's house because apparently he's still living there, I guess. I don't know. Like
30 days. Remember, this is
only
like what, day 8?
Yes, that's true. So he gets back home from dinner, and then he tells Dave that
No. He gets back home at 1 a.m.
Right. Okay. He gets back home at 1 a.m. and then he tells Dave that they had a great time. They were a little bit fighting, and then all of a sudden they kissed. And Dave is very upset by this, and he's like, "I can't believe you kissed her." And then he gets a phone call from Linda. Buddy does, and he takes it, and it's like 2 seconds, and then he's like, "I guess we need to tell you." And Buddy goes on to tell Dave that they have fallen for each other and that they were in love. And that's when Dave finally snaps.
No, that's when Fatal Attraction begins.
Yeah.
No, but for real, that's when the screw is officially stripped and rattling on the ground. No, there's no screw that's loose. Yeah. This screw is stripped and it is rolling around on the ground. I like what happens next. It's still, in my opinion, a little unassuming. This could have happened earlier. This could have not happened at all and still gotten to the point. At the exact same time, it was very necessary for all of the release of tension that has been building up through this movie.
Yeah, so they have their fight, right?
Well, no, so well, yeah. So Dave, he goes to work and he snaps at his boss calls him first. Hey, I don't have this, blah blah blah. He goes to his boss's office. He
Well,
snaps
that's
on his
after
boss.
that's after he goes back to court.
You are
They,
correct.
yeah, so he has a fight with Buddy, and then the next scene is them in court again with Buddy having a neck brace around his neck, and Dave is basically going to be sentenced for attempted murder.
Mm-hmm.
And he has 3 weeks until his court date, and so that's when he goes to work. Is after that scene.
Correct. That is
Yeah.
when the screw is not a screw was stripped when he jumped on him. But yeah, so that's when he goes to the boss's office, goes nuts. Andrew comes in, coming to find out Andrew got the job, which I didn't even know he and Andrew worked together.
Yeah, neither did I, honestly. I didn't even know that was one of those. I don't even think he does work with him.
I don't think so either. I think Andrew just got the job because he knew his dad, whomever knows whomever, right?
I think he got the job because it was a gag. Like, oh, Andrew got the job that you were waiting for, even though he doesn't work here.
I get you. Like even they, okay.
Yeah, they were kind of being a little bit tongue in cheek.
Facetious. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Andrew gets just totally obliterated because Dave's going off. Andrew walks in talking, boom, pops him in the face.
Yeah.
And afterwards, he pops Andrew in the face after Andrew reveals that Buddy is taking Linda to the Yankees game. And after Dave destroys everything, that's when he takes off to get down there to the stadium.
Yes, to get to the Yankee Stadium. Yes. And so he gets to Yankee Stadium and he's trying to get out onto the field because he knows that they're going to announce the wedding proposals before the national anthem, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right before the national anthem.
Yeah, so he's like, oh man, I got to get out into the field so that I can stop this from happening. He makes it to the bottom of the field where the security is, and we see Galaxia again. And Galaxia
now it's Gary.
Oh, Gary, yes. Sorry. So we see Gary, and Gary stops Dave and is like, you can't go on there. And like, that's illegal. You're not supposed to do that. Then, Dave has like the heart-to-heart with him and is like, if you don't let me on, I'm going to lose the woman that I love,
It's for love, baby.
Yeah. Gary, being the romantic, lets him onto the field so that he could run to the mic and take the mic before the national anthem goes on. Mm-hmm. This is when he calls out for Linda. And what?
Right. When he gets the mic, first off, I just want to say he was shaking the security like the myth of Bo Jackson, not like the real life Bo Jackson, like the myth of Bo Jackson. Right. While he's yelling into the microphone, like, come on.
Yeah. Well, that's just adds to the slapsticky stuff. So he gets on the microphone. He starts professing his love to Linda. And he gives this heartfelt speech, and Linda's response is, "Well, I'll marry you if you come up here and you kiss me in front of all these people." And that is the thing that he was not willing to do before.
Right. You really hated these cameos, didn't you?
There were too many of them that didn't really matter to me, honestly.
Come on, we're not going to mention Giuliani and how much
and Jeter
in the early 2000s, right? And Jeter. Come on, Jeter's a client too,
right? Yeah.
and also, like, no, for real though, why was he so loud? Like, he didn't have the microphone anymore, and I don't care how quiet you are. There's no way you're that loud in Yankee Stadium.
Oh no, yeah. Well,
exactly how quiet is it? What's the?
Because he had a lav mic on, man. He had a lav mic.
For sure.
That's for sure. So yes, that is right. Giuliani is at the baseball game, so obviously Derek Jeter, because he's a Yankee. So he professes his love to Linda. Linda says, I'll marry you if you kiss me in front of all these people. Giuliani starts the "you can do it" thing, and everybody starts chanting, kiss her, and they kiss, and this is when Dave realizes that Buddy is not around, and he's like, I can't believe that you almost fell for Buddy. And Linda's like, well, he's not such a bad guy after all. And on the prompter screen, you see, congratulations, Linda and Dave, and it's from Buddy. And this is when we find out that this entire thing was an elaborate scheme from Linda to make Buddy more decisive.
Right. From the flight on too. Now, before we complete, I want to say two things. One, and then I'm going to ask a question. One, isn't it trash that everybody was in on it except for the marshal? That's number one.
Yes. Yeah.
Isn't it? And then at the same time, isn't it ironic how Buddy's network of friends also benefited Dave as to knowing Gary when he came to security and was trying to get on the field?
Right. Yes. Yes. I mean, like, look, this to me, this is what this felt like. It felt like they had an interesting concept, and then I realized, oh man, we don't have any way to tie this all together. We don't have any way to make this all make sense. Oh, let's have Linda be. Linda has created this elaborate scheme in which they got a judge to be a part of sentencing
I don't think
person.
She came up with it. I don't think she came up with it. I think Buddy came up with it.
No, she said that it was her. It was her idea. This whole thing was her idea because she was frustrated with him, and you know, like she reached out to Buddy after reading his book, and that's when she got the idea to have him intervene in Dave's life. And I'm like, wait, so you got a judge to sentence your boyfriend to murder? How did that happen?
I don't know if I can say it.
Why in the world would you set up a situation in which you have your boyfriend get set up for assaulting women and then having to take anger management so that you can learn to be assertive?
Because she's the one who needed a therapist.
My God, man. Like look, as soon as I heard that it was all her idea, I would have been like, oh, never mind, marriage is off.
Marriage is out. Yeah.
We're done.
That was my question. That was remember I said I had two statements and one question, and that was my question. Could you marry someone who put you through this for 14 days?
No, man. Like that's crazy. That's crazy. He could. I mean, like he could have
committed murder multiple times.
He could have committed murder. He could have cheated on her. He could have died a couple times. Like,
yeah, could have died at least twice.
So, what is this? I don't get it at all. And really, it just, to me, it reeks of bad writing, because I'm like, there's no reason anybody in the world would make somebody go through this just to make them more assertive.
Well, I mean, hey, if you feel pretty, then you've gotten over your anger,
I suppose.
Notice she never had to sing the song.
Yeah, that's true. Then we cut to this scene in the park where they're all having fun and having a barbecue, and everybody's laughing and joking and having fun. And then I don't know. I felt so frustrated because I'm like, okay, so like you could have let us in on that secret, you know? Like,
I think it would have been a different movie if they let us in on the secret. It wouldn't have been as much of a comedy as it would have been like this super psychological think piece type of movie, you know? Yeah.
Well, I just think that there wasn't enough breadcrumbs and Easter eggs to let us know as an audience that was the whole idea. It just felt like it was tacked on at the end because they didn't realize they didn't figure out how Dave was going to get the girl again.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, maybe it was just all a part of the plan, and then he was being duped this whole time by a massive conspiracy involving at least 24 actors. That, you know, like it was like a miniature Truman Show. Yeah.
Hey, listen, the Truman Show is scary. Let's not.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, so that rolls the credits on anger management, and you know, I don't know what if I have anything else to say. I have my verdict, and then I think it will go to you, Keelan. So I'm gonna say anger management is filled with star-studded cast, but it does not reach the same heights. This fever dream of a comedy may have some lucid moments, but at the end, it misses the landing. 2.5 out of 5. There were some good moments where I actually did laugh. I do enjoy the ancillary characters. I really like John C. Reilly. I like John Turturro. I liked Luis Guzman. I thought that those characters were, funny and interesting at least. But the way they tried to tie it up just didn't work for me.
I get that.
Yeah.
For me, I enjoyed the movie. As I said, it gave me some just moments that I remembered from when I was younger. That was like, oh, that's where I got that from, or that's why I think that's funny, etc. Things like that. As far as the movie, like I said at the top, I think the writing was done well in terms of making you feel, or again, maybe I'm talking about the screenplay or the cinematography, but the way it was portrayed, yes, the way it was portrayed in front of us, for me at least, it was set to where you actually felt the things that were intended for you to feel that were going on.
Right.
I enjoyed that. I had a lot of laugh moments, but I wasn't overly, if I'm being honest, I thought I was gonna enjoy it a little more. I wasn't overly impressed. I'll say it that way. And I know, it's not to say like, oh, these things have to impress me, but there is a certain enjoyable nature that I kind of expected, and a piece of that was missing, in my opinion. I'm not really sure what was the piece of that was missing. Like, I kind of feel like a part of the movie is open-ended, is what I'm saying. Like, there are some parts where I'm kind of like, wait, can we wrap that up? But overall, I was entertained. It was enjoyable. Taking it for what it is and having sat with it as long as I have sat with it throughout time, I would definitely still watch it again. I might have less questions once I watch it a few more times as an adult, So my rating, it's actually weird or funny to me that our conclusions sound totally different, but we have the exact same rating of 2.5.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was trying to be generous because it is better than Bulletproof. And
I think it was better than Bulletproof and Eraser.
Yeah. I mean, like, I liked Eraser for the absolute absurdity of it. Just because it was, an Arnold Schwarzenegger action film is always going to be over the top crazy. But yeah, it was definitely better than Bulletproof, which I gave a 1.5. So I definitely have to bump it up at least one more because, as I said, John Turturro, Luis Guzman, Woody Harrelson, all the cameos were actually really enjoyable.
Yeah.
So I did appreciate that. Jack Nicholson is always very good about being kind of a creepy character.
Save the movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think he did a very good job at being who he was supposed to be, for sure. Adam Sandler did a good job kind of being that seething sort of character as well. But as I said, like you're saying, there's something missing, and I think it's really just has to do with the movie was probably edited down very heavily, and they had to take a lot of context out of what was going on.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah.
For me, again, I believe we should start breaking our ratings into genre classification. So, as far as a comedy, it's 2.5 on the comedy scale,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that giving it a 5 out of 10 is about right. I think it's middle of the road is probably a good rating. So that will be our rating for anger management, 5 out of 10.
Does this mean we passed anger management class, or that we both need to go get analyzed?
We might. Yeah, I think I've passed it, and I don't think I ever want to revisit it, to be honest.
For sure.
But, yeah,
I was extremely triggered by this movie.
Yeah. Well, we hope that you enjoyed this retelling of the 2003 smash hit Anger Management, starring Adam Sandler and Jack Nicholson. If you are familiar with our show, this is the time where we tell you which wormhole we are going down next. The way this works is that we take an actor from the movie that we just reviewed, and we decide to follow their career and see which movie we choose from that actor's screen time or where it will bring us in the movie universe. So, without much further ado, the actor that we are going to follow into the wormhole for this screen time continuum is none other than the Jack Nicholson. I mean, obviously, I think that was kind of a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That was something that we definitely needed to.
It was almost like asking who's the biggest star to ever sit courtside at a Laker game.
Right.
You don't even have to watch basketball. You know the answer.
You know, it's been him for the past 20, 30 years. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to be following Jack Nicholson down the wormhole. And we have 4 coordinates where we might end up. We have the 1996 movie Mars Attacks. We have the 1989 original Batman. And then we have the 1980 The Shining and 1987's Witches of Eastwick. So please stay tuned for next week's episode. We are on every Wednesday at 8 p.m. where we will be choosing one of these coordinates to fall down the wormhole, and we will see where we end up on the screen time continuum. Thank you very much, you guys, for listening. We really appreciate you. Please leave us a like and a comment if you feel so inclined. Give us a follow at Thinkering Podcast on Facebook and YouTube. Yes. And then we have our own YouTube channel, Screen Time Continuum. Please consider giving us a follow and a like. And let's see, we have Keelan's show on Tuesdays, which is If Numbers Can Talk. Just had a good conversation. Keelan, it was about Tom Brady, and I'm sorry, the other person was Joe Montana.
Yep.
Yeah.
Joe Montana.
Very cool. If you guys haven't listened to that one, please go check that out because it was an interesting conversation for sure. And if you feel like ever getting into some weird, interesting topics, check out Exofathom. That's on Monday night and Friday nights. Other than that, thank you again so much for listening. Keelan, do you got anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Oh, man, just the normal, man. If you're listening, when you listen, take care of yourself and knows your love.
Absolutely. It's always a good message to leave on. And until next time, we will catch you on the next Screen Time Continuum. Thanks, guys. Good night.